All right, guys, what's going on? It's Jack, and welcome back to another video. So after 212 hours into Splitgate 2 so far, and somehow, some way reaching the top 10 in damage dealt for non-ranked matches in this game, I figured I'd share a couple of the tips and tricks with you that I've learned along the way. Some of them are simple, some of them not so simple, but I'm not a pro player by any means. I'm just somebody that's noticed things while playing, so I just wanted to share them with you. And of course, I am also a controller player. I'm not a mouse and keyboard player, nor am I a professional portaler, but I think these things will definitely be something that can help players out. So this is why I'm sharing them with you. So let's get right into it. So number one, I call this one dead silence. So dead silence kind of exists in this game, but it's right in front of you, but you don't notice it. It's not in the form of a perk or anything like that, but pretty much almost everything you do in the game creates a sound, right? Whether you're firing your weapon, whether you're, running around on the ground, or shooting portals or whatnot, it's going to make a sound. The sound of this game is very good, very easy to pinpoint people. However, whenever you're using your jetpack or whenever you're sliding, you're not making nearly as much sound, right? So basically, if you hover, if you hear enemy footsteps, and if you use your jetpack to just hover just a little bit above the ground, which can actually take you a good amount of distance, especially if you actually pair it with your slide as well, you can actually get the jump on enemies because you'll be able to tell where they are. You'll be able to kind of go around them a little bit and to catch them off guard and basically get the jump on them, or maybe even flank them for a two-piece or more, right? So this is a good way to kind of traverse around the map when you start to hear a lot of people around you that are not friendlies. And you could definitely take advantage of this, but make sure you're close to the ground, and there's a very specific reason for that. And that leads me into number two. Number two is that boots on the ground wins most gunfights. So in gunfights, you want to limit your jetpack usage because when you use your jetpack, especially if you go higher up, you become an easier and a slower and more floaty target to hit, which will make the enemy, hit you that much easier because you're just an easier target. So you're actually better off when it comes to gunfights. You're actually better off keeping things on the ground because your strafing is a lot quicker and your movement's a lot quicker and a lot more predictable when you're actually on the ground. So you have to kind of pick and choose on when and how you approach things when it comes to jetpacks. So you're not guaranteed a kill when using a jetpack. Let's just put it that way. All right. So, all right, let's go on to number three, baiting teammates. So I actually learned this from the Marca J way back in the day when he was making Call of Duty videos. So basically what you want to do in this game is you don't want to be too far away from your teammates, but at the same time, you don't want to be too close either, right? So you basically want to use them as bait. Most of the time, I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys have experienced this at one point or another. A lot of the times your teammates are not always very useful. So therefore, you might as well use them as bait, right? So what you want to do is, again, not be too close, but not be too far. So that way, whenever, they enter a gunfight and they lose, for instance, or like, let's say the enemy is focusing on them, hopefully you'll be at an angle or in a position to where you're actually going to be able to get a few hits on them before they're able to react to you. Or if they're already low on health, you're going to basically be able to finish them off that much easier because you'll be at an advantage whether they see you or not. So again, being at a certain angle to where you're not too far away from your teammates and yet at the same time not sticking to them like glue is a really good sweet spot for you to be able to use them as bait and to take advantage of the situation so that therefore you could be that much more valuable to your team. Next up, number four. This one's very simple. I call this disable red. So anytime you see a red portal, which is basically an enemy portal, shoot that shit down. Now, obviously, if it's glowing and if it's making that loud sound, try shooting through it, especially if your crosshair is red, so that way you can, kill the enemy on the other side. Or you could just choose to disable it right away or throw a grenade right through it. But at the end of the day, you want to disable red portals. Even if they're far away from you or whatnot, disable them. And if your teammates actually do that too, it actually makes quite the difference from your team. Because if the enemy has to focus a few extra seconds just to create new portals and stuff like that, and that kind of distracts them from their flow and their flow, and therefore making you more of a nuisance to them, which is what you want in order to increase your chances of winning the match. So disabling red portals, as basic as it seems, can go a long way, especially if your entire team or more members of your team are doing it. All right, next up, number five, countering the wall hack ability. Now, this is kind of a band-aid. It's not an end-all be-all because the Meridian's wall hack ability is basically like it's way too powerful. It needs a nerf to where it only works for the player that's activating it, in my opinion. Instead of working for the whole team. However, people are going to spam the shit out of it, especially if they're using Meridian. Now, if you're using Meridian, obviously, you want to wait until they use it on you for you to activate it for them, so that way everything is even Steven. Now, if you're not using Meridian, then I would suggest if you're close to a power position, get in that power position, play defense, and just count to about 5 or so, and then continue on your route, right? So it's going to kind of slow you down, but you know, you don't want to rush the opposition if you're already being detected, because one or more enemy players are going to be able to see you, and just rushing the opposition is just not the way to go. So again, stop, play defense, put yourself in the power position if you possibly can, if you're close to one, and count to about 5, and then continue on your rushing route. That's the best advice I can give for that now. All right, next up, I wanted to add this in because a lot of players, especially for a game like this, it's an arena shooter, to where there's less aim assist going on, and there's a certain way to use a controller. I want to start out by basically helping you choose your sensitivity a little bit, because a lot of people are still like either copying somebody else's sensitivity, or they're just kind of winging it because they're not entirely sure. So very basic, but I just wanted to say this. So instead of copying somebody else's sensitivity that's already built their muscle memory around their sensitivity, ask yourself, what is your playstyle, right? Are you more passive? Are you more aggressive? Or are you somewhere in between? If you're passive, you're going to be on the lower end of the spectrum of the sensitivity curve. If you are aggressive, you're going to be on the higher end of the sensitivity curve. And if you're in between, you are going to be somewhere in the middle. So let's say sensitivity limits are from 1 to 10. Just for mathematical sake, let's say it's from 1 to 10. If you're on the if you're a passive player, you're going to be anywhere from a 1 to a 3.5. If you're somewhere in the middle, you're going to be anywhere from a 3.5 to about a 7. And if you're more aggressive, you're going to be anywhere from a 7 to 10, right? So that's basically a general rule of thumb when it comes to sensitivity. So you want to take a look at your playstyle as well. And at the same time, you also want to look at how consistent you are, right? So if you've been at a certain sensitivity for a certain amount of time to where you've adjusted to it, but at the same time, if you're missing too many shots, you might have to adjust. And it really depends on how you're missing those shots in order for you to adjust slightly up or slightly down. So in other words, if you are over aiming to where you're missing your target because whenever you're moving left and right, you're going too much, then you want to lower your sensitivity. If you're moving left and right and you're not getting to your target fast enough, or you're not reaching your target when you thought you'd be on your target, then you want to increase the sensitivity. And remember, whenever you increase or lower your sensitivity, you want to increase or lower it just a little bit at a time. You do too much, you're going to be all over the place. So, and remember, just like everything else, whether you go up or down, it's going to take a transitional period for you to get used to it. So give yourself time. So whatever you decide to do in terms of changing up your sensitivity, if you decide to do so, make sure you give yourself time, because if you don't give yourself enough time, you keep changing it, you're just going to keep making things worse. So whatever it is you decide to do, stick with it for a good amount of time and then go from there. All right, next up, this is a left stick aim game. So once you use your right stick in order to get your crosshairs on a target or as close to a target as possible, the majority of the rest of your movement in your aiming is going to be in your strafe, which is your left stick. And then if you do use your right stick to adjust after you've already acquired your target, you're going to use that right stick very delicately. So again, this makes you a harder target because you're strafing left and right. And at the same time, you're going to be a lot more consistent with your aim. It's going to feel weird at first, but if you put in the time, you will go through that transition period and build up that muscle memory, and you'll be a lot more consistent with your shots, and you won't even have to think about it after that anymore. So it's one of the best aiming tips I can give you guys in terms of, you know, maintaining that aim. Now, next up, proper jetpack usage. So you only want to use jetpacks to surprise opponents or when you want to catch them off guard, right? So let's say you take some shots in the back and you go around a corner and they're just kind of waiting for you to pop around that corner or whatever the deal is. Once you're invisible, right, because you're behind something, right, and you're out of their line of sight, when you use your jetpack, instead of just popping around the corner while you're on the ground, which is something that's a lot more expected, a lot more predictable, and chances are their crosshairs are on there. Well, if you use your jetpack to kind of hover from one side to the other as you're coming around that corner, in which they don't see you using that right away, you're going to be like way higher or whatnot. It's going to surprise them, and it's going to allow you a way out. And at the same time, it might even allow you to counter it and get the kill. So that is just one way to do it. So again, I've already explained in terms of the dead silence thing. But be careful just to not to overuse your jetpacks, because a lot of people, I see them flying, you know, in the middle of the map or whatnot, and you know, they're just easy to pick off. You know, no matter what weapon you use, for the most part, other than shotguns, obviously, you're going to be able to pick off people that are just floating around the map in the middle with super high verticality very easily. So when you're using your jetpack, be very careful with your verticality, because you want to use it very sparingly and in very specific situations to where you know people are not going to be looking at you. But with this game, there are times, especially with the portals, to where players could be at any angle at any time. So don't overuse your jetpack. Don't be too vertical with it, because you're going to get picked off. All right, next up, health recovery. So health recovery is really slow in this game. So make sure you take a look at your health bar after taking damage, because chances are at least 50% of the time you are re-engaging or making yourself aware to the other team by taking shots at somebody when you haven't fully recovered from your health yet. Hopefully they kind of increase in terms of the rate of how you heal, or at least buff the stim shot a little bit. That would be nice. But yeah, health recovery is not as fast as you would think in this game, and more often than not, if not 50% of the time, you're probably re-engaging or making yourself aware to the enemy before you fully recovered health, and then you're going to wonder how in the hell you got melted, and that's because you weren't fully recovered yet. All right, and number 10, chasing. Do not chase your enemy unless it's a very short chase and they're that low on health and you're close enough to finish them off. But if they're at a decent distance, and if they're rounding a corner from that decent distance, or both, just don't engage. Don't engage. Hopefully a teammate will finish them off, but don't engage. I know it's very tempting, but don't do it. More often than not, it's a death trap, especially with the abilities, and especially if they have Sabrask to where they have a grenade or the wall at their disposal. Don't do it. It's not worth the risk. There's plenty of other targets to shoot at almost any given point in time, as well as flanks to take and all that other stuff. So avoid the temptation of chasing or over chasing in this case. So anyway, guys, that's pretty much it. That's 10 of my tips from me to you. I hope they help you out, and let me know in the comments section if they do. And as always, I'd like to thank everybody for taking the time to watch and or listen. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll catch you guys on the next one.